getting humans to Mars. I mean, it's one of the greatest challenges of our time, right? Today, we're going to break down a new, incredibly detailed blueprint for doing just that. It's called Mars Direct 3, and it's a plan built from the ground up with one single goal in mind: getting the crew there and back safely. Okay, let's dive in. For all the excitement around new rockets and these super ambitious timelines, there is a serious question we have to ask. What if the current public vision for a Mars mission has some potentially mission-ending weak spots baked right into its foundation? Ever since the Apollo landings, reaching the red planet has been that next giant leap for humanity. It's a dream that has captivated us for generations. But turning that dream into a reality requires more than just a powerful rocket. It requires a bulletproof plan. And that's where we hit the hard realities. According to the Mars Direct 3 architecture, any successful plan has to overcome three massive, mission-critical challenges that are often overlooked in the broader vision. So it boils down to three core issues. First, betting the crew's return trip on successfully mining and processing hundreds of tons of Martian ice is incredibly risky. I mean, if that machinery fails, they're stranded. Second, the power you'd need to refuel a single massive ship is just astronomical. And third, a lot of what we hear about are these grand visions, not the nuts and bolts engineering plans you actually need to execute a mission. To put that energy problem in perspective, just look at this number. That's the area of solar panels you'd need to refuel just one starship on Mars. We're talking about an area larger than 10 football fields that has to be shipped to Mars, deployed, and maintained, all just to make the return fuel. It's a staggering logistical challenge. So how do you solve these problems? Well, Mars Direct 3 proposes this clever and really elegant solution it calls the big ship, small ship strategy. And it fundamentally rethinks how we use our vehicles. The core idea here is specialization. So instead of using one giant ship for everything, you use the massive starship as a one-way moving van to haul all your gear to Mars. But for the most precious cargo, the crew, you use a much smaller, dedicated vehicle designed specifically for the round trip. It's kind of like sending your moving truck ahead and then flying to your new home in a nimble, reliable jet. And the difference is just stark. The crew's return vehicle, this Caravel, only needs about 180 tons of fuel to get home compared to the 1,100 tons for a full-size starship. That is a massive reduction, more than 5 times less fuel. And that one change has huge ripple effects on safety and simplicity. And here it is, a concept of the Caravel. It's designed using the same core technologies as Starship to keep development costs down, but it's purpose-built to be a safe, reliable taxi for the astronauts' return journey. This new approach also builds a much safer fuel plan. With the smaller Caravel, you only need about 40 tons of methane for the trip home. So instead of mining for water to make it, you just pack it on one of the one-way cargo ships. The other component, oxygen, well, that can be made directly from the Martian atmosphere, and that's a technology that's already been tested on Mars. This completely eliminates that dangerous reliance on ice mining for the crew's ticket home. Okay, so with that strategy in mind, how does the actual mission unfold? Well, it's a carefully choreographed dance that involves 4 ships sent over 2 launch windows. The first wave is entirely robotic. A large cargo ship lands with a fuel factory, and a complete backup ship vehicle lands right alongside it. For 2 years, that factory just chugs away, making return fuel from the air. And here's the key. Only when the fuel tank is full and the backup ship is confirmed safe does the crew even leave Earth. They arrive knowing their ride home is already fueled up and waiting. So how does that smaller Caravel get to space? Well, it's launched inside the payload bay of a cargo starship, essentially acting as its own upper stage for the final burn to Mars. It's a really efficient use of the hardware. But this is where the plan truly shines. It's in its obsession with safety and its detailed answers to the question, what if things go wrong? Because on Mars, they inevitably will.
So let's consider a nightmare scenario. The crew survives the landing, but their ship is broken. In most plans, this is a death sentence, but not here.
Because remember that first launch wave? A fully functional, identical backup ship, the Caravel Pinta, is already sitting on the surface just a few kilometers away. It has life support, supplies, and it is ready for the return journey. But the plan goes a layer deeper. What if the crew is injured and can't walk to the backup ship? They can remotely activate a rover from the backup ship and drive it over to their crash site to come pick them up. This level of contingency planning is just remarkable.
Okay, let's try another potential disaster. Mars is famous for global dust storms that can blot out the sun for weeks or even months. If you're relying on solar power, how do you survive?
The plan has an incredibly elegant solution. The crew takes shelter in their ship. The small tanker rover that moves fuel around is also equipped with fuel cells. By plugging it into the ship, it becomes a mobile power station, converting some of the stored methane and oxygen into electricity. It can provide essential power for over 100 days, more than enough to wait out even the worst Martian storm. So when you add it all up, the reduced risk, the built-in redundancies, what's the bottom line? Is this architecture not only safer, but also more efficient? The numbers speak for themselves. This architecture, using the big ship, small ship strategy, could accomplish the first mission with about 21 total launches. A comparable mission using only giant starships would require twice as many, 42 launches. Fewer launches means lower cost and fewer opportunities for failure. Ultimately, the Mars Direct 3 plan dramatically cuts risk by eliminating the most fragile points of failure. It requires far fewer launches, it has backups for its backups, and what's more, it's not just a flags and footprints mission. It leaves behind a functional fuel depot and habitat, laying the literal groundwork for a permanent Martian settlement. And that leaves us with a final thought. We have the vision, and the hardware is getting closer every day. But is a tough, resilient, and meticulously detailed plan like this one, a plan that prioritizes safety above all else, the missing piece of the puzzle that will finally and safely take us to Mars?